Have you ever felt like something deeper is stuck inside of you? Perhaps emotions that you never fully processed? Hi, I'm Tanya, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Threshold, where this week we're talking about the hidden cost of suppressed emotions and why what you ignore doesn't go away. I wanted to talk about it because I myself have made quite a few lifestyle changes in the last several years, and I haven't noticed as much of a decrease in physical symptoms as I would have expected from those major lifestyle changes. So it got me thinking that I probably have some suppressed emotions that need to be processed and let go. And I think perhaps those emotions are anger. Emotions need to be processed. The body keeps the score. If you don't process emotions, you will hold on to it. And I just want to make sure here that I'm not giving medical advice to you at all. If you have symptoms, you should definitely go and see a medical professional. I have zero training in that. I'm just talking about how it feels to me, and I thought perhaps it might be of service or just for something for you to think about too if you were finding similar things. So some tools that we might use to find and release these emotions are to write a letter to the emotion. So it could be writing a letter to your anger or whatever emotion that it is that you feel like you might be holding on to. So write that letter, and then of course you don't send it anywhere. You can use memory triggers. So think back to a time when you should have felt an emotion, but perhaps you didn't. So perhaps instead of feeling the emotion, you rationalized it or you kept it in to keep the peace. So try and revisit that experience, and revisit that experience using curiosity and not judgment, and see if you are able to then feel that feeling that you maybe should have felt in the first place. You can also visualize a safe space to express any of the emotions that you hadn't expressed before. And then, of course, there's the physical ways of releasing, or somatic ways of releasing emotions that are stuck in our body. You could just lie down and close your eyes and sort of scan where in your body you might be holding on to tension. And that tension might actually be unreleased emotions. So again, like a tightness in a jaw or tension in the shoulders or that kind of thing. You can do a physical release of those emotions through shaking, yelling into a pillow, breath work. And there's also plenty of YouTube videos on somatic release that you can use for free. And hopefully that will help you to find and release emotions. So now that we've spoken about suppressing anger and emotions on a personal level, I wanted to scale it up and talk about what happens when we do it as a society. So I would argue that there is a collective pressure to be nice or act professionally or to not overreact. There's a pressure on children that, big girls don't cry or big boys don't cry, that having anger, expressing anger is unacceptable. And so this causes this suppression that we have as a society of our emotions. And the consequences of that, I think, also can be seen quite readily. There's burnout and chronic stress based on this emotional suppression about, maybe not expressing our displeasure with jobs, work-life balance, the commute, anything, stressors in our lives. There's misplaced rage in the form of road rage, which I have and I'm working on, but that was also another clue beyond the physical symptoms not abating as much as I would have expected. But the road rage that comes up, I'm like, oh, there's got to be some anger in there that I still haven't gotten to. Of course, there's the online, keyboard warriors, that's misplaced rage. And those people that you hear going, I want to speak to your manager, the poor frontline service workers. And the fact that in many places of business or services where I go, I see posters on the wall talking about being, nice to employees and being understanding. And I'm thinking, my goodness, if if there's a poster up there, then that must mean there was a need for the poster. So these poor employees must have been taking the brunt of all this misplaced rage that we as a society seem to have. And there's also numbing and avoidance. So overworking or addictive behaviors or consumerism or overuse of social media, all in a bid to distract ourselves from these emotions that we've deemed as a society as unhealthy or not to be expressed. And also, in addition to or fueled by social media is this societal polarization, the rage that we have towards one another over the smallest, I would argue, the smallest of differences. So I think what we can do to liberate ourselves from this emotional suppression is just to start questioning norms. When we ask why is it not okay to feel this? Or why is it not okay to express this emotion? We reclaim our power. When we process emotions that we are feeling, we move through them and we don't get stuck. And mental health and, work-life balance are slowly starting to get into the zeitgeist, but I would argue that not nearly to the degree that we need, not nearly quickly enough. And also I often found that it was sort of an add-on instead of a taking off. Like if it was at work, it was like, oh, come to this after work, webinar, instead of, why don't we take this off your plate? So it is changing, but we do have a ways to go. And I think that if we start questioning norms, we can help speed up that process. We can also use our emotions as a positive. So we can transmute them into something positive. For example, if we're going to go with my anger, we can use it as a guide, right? So, oh, I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling this emotion. What is that telling me? It's probably telling me that something is out of alignment, or that maybe I'm tolerating something that needs to change. We can take our emotions and turn it into creative energy. We can take it action, we can transform. That's what I did. Like, it was actually anger that spurred me into changing my life into what I'm in the process of doing right now. It was finally anger that got me to move and do something about it instead of just feeling unsettled. Artists over the years have used anger in creative ways. I'm thinking of maybe protest songs of the 1960s as an example. And we can use creativity to actually transmute that anger. We can use it, we can do things like journaling, and of course my favorite, or art, and hopefully get it out, and it can be a cathartic process. We can use it for self-respect, or to increase our self-respect. We can use that emotion to draw a boundary. We can say no. Again, no is a full sentence, and we can use it as a form of self-care. I do not want to be a part of this. I do not accept this. And that in turn creates space and energy for the relationships that we actually want to be part of, and relationships that actually work for us. So it can be relationships to one another, or relationship to things, relationships to time spent, all that kind of thing. So I'll just close by asking, what might you be holding on to? An emotion that you might be holding on to. Not necessarily anger. It could be shame, guilt, sadness, grief. Is there something that maybe you're holding on to? And if so, what small step can you take to acknowledge and or release that? And I'll see you next week beyond the threshold.